So the next thing I want to talk about before these guys have to take off is parkour parks. We touched on it a little bit, but we had good conversations. I know Colin knows a lot. Just
you guys want to know?
Steps to build one, like if there's any ways to possibly make it easier.
Yeah. So I mean, we've been messing with this for a few years, and I think there are sort of three kind of avenues towards being involved in a park design. At one level, there's sort of a community level, and this is something that everybody, if you guys are interested in having a parkour park in your area, this is something you can just go out and do. Anytime a park is going to be redeveloped or a new park is going to be made, there has to be a community feedback meeting for the people, usually people in the neighborhood, but really anyone can come and give their feedback.
Where can you find out about those?
There's probably through the park's website. It's kind of hard to find them sometimes.
Yeah, I kind of assumed.
A lot of times it'll just be like, well, they'll put a poster up somewhere, a local community center.
Yeah.
But once you can find one or two of them and go, you'll start making the connections that you need. And you want to go to these meetings, and you want to talk to the landscape architect who is hired on. Sometimes that'll be somebody who works for the parks department. Sometimes that'll be a private architect who's being brought on. Make a connection with them. You want to make a connection with the parks employee who is there facilitating the event, and like if the parks department isn't designing, there'll still be a planner who is responsible for saying we're going to develop a park here. You want to make friends with them because they can tell you not only about that park but also about the upcoming projects that get you to those meetings. And then you want to make friends with somebody who's a leader in that community. A lot of neighborhoods will have neighborhood councils or community councils. These are the people who are going to be able to show the parks department or show grant writing organizations that you have support. And they're people that are going to go to bat for you, or they're the people who are going to sink your project dead because they don't like you. So you make friends with them. So once you kind of have that community connection, then you want to leverage those connections that you've made to be at the design level. And that means that maybe because you made friends with that planner or made friends with a landscape architect, that they're going to come to you before there's a public feedback meeting when they're saying, okay, we're taking out this basketball court. We don't really know what we're going to put there. We're thinking about adult fitness. Do you want to come in and share your feedback privately? And that's when you can actually, maybe make a difference in that design, or you can get paid to do this.
Yeah.
It's a real thing, and so that's sort of the second level, and then the third level is to be the organization, the community organization that instigates the process of creating a parkour space, and that will often require that you either have a nonprofit group or you can find a nonprofit group to sponsor you, essentially. A lot of times that's going to be the community organization. Like, you want to make friends with the community leaders. They are a nonprofit. They can sponsor you often. And that's difficult. That's what we're doing right now. So that means that you need to find money, and you need to find land. And you need to make those two things work together. So land-wise, like what we're doing right now is we're working with King County, which is the county that Seattle is in, and they have a community grant office where basically they give money to nonprofit groups who want to make capital improvements to King County sites. So a lot of times this goes to soccer fields and things like that. But it can also go to a parkour park. So we have a commitment basically from them for this amount of money, and originally we were going to build on King County land and it was going to be super easy. and that got shut down because the site that we wanted to build on had too much stuff already. It's kind of weird. So now we're in the process of trying to find land through Seattle parks and bring the King County funding towards the Seattle parks land. Put those together. So I think those are sort of three avenues towards the park in increasing order of difficulty and time commitment.
Awesome.
But they're all things that you can do and start looking at.
Cool. That's super good to know.
Great information. And come to the one that's going to open in Boise. We want you to come because of the issue video.
Okay.
You and Eric will.
All right. Sounds fantastic.
Video.
I'm down.
Yeah, so the counterexample of everything just being really, really easy is in Boise, Idaho. The city was like, hey, we have this spot under a bridge. It's next to a skate park, but right now people just sleep there. We want to activate the space. This is the key word when you're talking to people. Tell them that you're going to activate the space. And that just means like a space that is unused is a space that's dangerous and a space that people don't want to be. So Boise said, hey, we want to use this thing. They put it out to bid to landscape architect firms. A firm in Seattle won the bid, and they said, hey, we could build a parkour park. And they drew some squiggles. And that was the parkour park that they proposed. And Boise said, yeah, do it. And so then they came and they talked to us, and they're like, we don't know how to build a parkour park. You guys help us out? And we did. And now that it's going to be built, like, soon. Early next year. Cool. And there's like been no blockage or anything. The money's all there. The site's there.
Oh, that would be nice.
Get lucky, it'll be easy. Or Vancouver, they'll just build you a parkour park.
I like that keyword, activate.
Yeah, I want to hear more about your experiences.
Some similarities and some differences. Like, so 5 years ago now, and mind the park was built. So it was basically a 4-year process, I'd say, from pursuing it to actually having it finished. So I would say 4 years. The start of the 4 years, called City Hall. Actually, my girlfriend went down to City Hall, and she said, "Okay, we're gonna have a gym open soon. We're a group, and we want to have parks for the sport parkour." And they were pretty positive at City Hall, and they said, "Okay, talk to this person." And to be honest, I can't remember the names of people's jobs because there's so much bureaucracy and stuff that it's just all they're executive something this or whatever. Anyway, so I started talking to one guy who invited me to what sounds like some of the networking meetings or whatever. So I got invited to a Vancouver Sports Network meeting, and I didn't feel like a whole lot got done there. I got to meet a lot of these people you're talking about. I met a whole bunch of people, and I wasn't quite sure what to do with these relationships. And I got a lot of cards from architects and stuff. I was like, okay, cool. Anyway, some time passed. I kept talking to this guy, so I just kept, keeping in touch. And eventually he got back to me. He said the Hastings Park project is coming up. They're looking at having some of the space for, I can't remember the term they used, but a type of sport that parkour fell into. I guess. So it might have been alternative sports. I think might have been what it was. And I said, "Cool, love to be a part of the project." So got moved on to the guy who was the project manager for that, and he wanted us to pitch something. So we ended up doing kind of like a mini demo at a playground for them, and answered some questions there. It's just like some people came out basically to watch us play around on the playground for about 15 minutes and then ask questions.
You talking about Andy Livingston?
Yeah. Which is actually a pretty good park for parkour. And then after that, there was a stakeholder meeting, is what it seemed. I guess we were considered a stakeholder, meaning that we wanted to be featured in the park. There was a circus group that was there. Actually, circus group wasn't at the meeting. They didn't show up. Bring up that up later. They didn't show up. There was a CrossFit group, there was a volleyball group, there was a hockey group, there was a bike dirt jump group. Anyway, some of these people were included in the final project, some of them weren't. We were. So we just kind of, Tom attended that meeting with me, and we just said, yeah, make this. And it was always kind of funny when the conclusion was that the Parkour Park was the cheapest thing of anything else. So that's one thing you can bring up right away. The materials, steel and concrete and rubber flooring are actually really cheap compared to what goes into making a soccer field, like a up-to-date soccer field kind of thing. So that was easy. The amount of like our minimum square footage was easy. Even our like dream square footage didn't come off as that big. So that was cool. And slowly but surely, so that was kind of from there. It almost seemed like it was 3 years in the making. From like that last meeting in terms of how long it took them to actually build it or get the design approved and then build. The interesting thing about the circus group is they didn't attend, and then they had this whole elaborate thing. It was going to be this giant archway that silks were going to be hung off of, and I was like, this is not fair. They're getting this giant. I was trying to complain about it every chance I got. They're getting this huge space to hang silks that they're only going to have access to. I didn't find out until the opening. That never happened.
Yeah.
It's like this empty spot of glass. I didn't find out at the opening that they were actually supposed to put in money.
Yeah.
I was like, I could have put in money? I would have put in money. We could have saved funds over these past 3 years from Origins to put into this park. If I had known, I could have put in money. So it's another thing. If you find out that you could potentially put in money into a city project, maybe that's another thing too. That was a huge takeaway at the end, where if I had known, it probably would have been a much cooler park.
Yeah.
It's still pretty cool, but
were they really budget limited? Was that?
I guess so. I think it cost $28,000.
It's so cheap.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Really?
I think that was.
Because safety servicing is really expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the parkour spot, it was $28,000. So, like who knows? If I probably could have scrounged up, $15,000 over a year or something to throw into that, and it made it that much better. But hey.
Awesome. Good to know. Yeah. That's, I don't know I know you guys have to take off. I don't know when. I mean, I could literally keep talking all night, and I'll probably just keep bringing up subjects. But if you guys have to dip out at any time, just feel free. Let's say our goodbyes. But anyways, something that we talked about it a little bit earlier, and it kind of defaulted to the first thing I said, which was parkour parks, getting people together and doing projects. But that's not exactly the only thing. Like, I've always wanted to use parkour as like it's also something that me and Danny were talking about, as like a kind of like a therapy type thing, getting people out of slumps, stopping people from doing drugs, like all of these people that are just kind of in bad places with their lives, kind of showing them parkour, because for me, it helped me a lot. Some people know my story, some people don't. I drank a lot of alcohol when I was like 14 through 18. Like, had alcohol poisoning. Basically, my heart stopped for a little while, and then kept drinking after that. And then finally, started doing parkour, changed schools, and those two things kind of helped me get out of that, basically. Like, parkour was kind of like, at the time, it was like, I have nothing to do. Like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I know I enjoy going out with my friends and drinking, so that's what I'm doing. There was no, like, nothing to actually do. And then parkour, the second I found out about it, like, I was going outside, and I could actually do what I wanted to do, and that was quickly showing me progress. Like, I could be like, I can't do something, focus on it for an hour, and then I could do it by the end of that. And just that completely changed my mentality about so many different things. And I think that can help, like, tons of people. And I was talking to Danny. He was doing some work. You can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah,
that I would be super interested in doing.
Well, in Mexico, we have like a bunch of like marginal zones with like really poor people and like drug addicts and stuff, and like mostly like political parties or like private organizations. They want to like reach out to parkour community to like go and give workshops, and we do that a lot of times there. So sorry. So right now, like I was telling Joey, like right now Dara is working on that. Like he's going 2 days a week to like a pretty bad area with a bunch of like drug addicts, like pretty young ones and stuff. And he's giving free parkour classes, like just to like show them what they are capable of, and like be more active in sports and like health wise. And it's helping a lot. And they do this a lot there in Mexico. We have like we've also had little tours to other like states in there in Mexico where we just go and do workshops, and like little kids just come out and play with us, and they like I want to keep doing parkour, blah blah blah. And it's amazing, like knowing you're helping them, because afterwards they'll be like, hey, you know, I was like you, like I was just in the bottom of my life, and this is what I want to keep doing, and thank you. And it's pretty like. It's exactly. It's amazing.
And then alongside that, to link it to another conversation we had earlier with competitions kind of bringing you down, and like that mentality bringing you down, also to link it to coaching, just teaching it in a way that is showing them like that they're doing it for themselves and not for another thing, because that can be it's a two-way thing. Like it can take you out of slumps, but it can also very easily put you into slumps. I think it's just important to like teach it in a, you're doing this, like you should be doing this for you. Maybe not should, but if you picture that, then you'll be more likely to better your life instead of let it fall down. But that was just a little tangent.
Actually, we were talking about this earlier, right? Like in Adam's house, we were talking about with Beanie, like this type of like parkour work towards communities and charity, and like giving out to people, because that's what we do. That's what parkour is all about, like teaching others. And you were mentioning that. That's important.
I mean, parkour always has like its public eye figures and kind of the direction that it goes, and obviously like there's different parts of parkour. There's like competitions, and there's clothing, and there's there's gyms, and there's athletes, professional athletes, but there's not a lot of outreach that's being shown. Like, I don't know what you guys do in your communities. I don't know what you guys do in your communities, but, you know, we have outreach programs for, like, boys and girls that have anger issues and have stuff that they're struggling with. We have adaptive parkour for, like, kids that have disabilities and things they just need to work on, balance or agility. You know, there's so many things that you can do, like, in a community on your own. And, like, we try to get people together to go do other community events, like this Thanksgiving. We're trying to get a few people together to go deliver deliver food to families that don't have Thanksgiving dinners and stuff like that. So like those things, I think those things are getting
underlooked.
Maybe just not put in the public eye as they could or should be, because it's all about who's the sickest athlete, what the clothing is, and all that stuff. But in all reality, a lot of us as parkour athletes have really good hearts to do good things for other people, because that's a huge reason as to why we started parkour too, was because it was something individualized that you understand, and then what happens as you get better, you want to teach and you want to spread that to other people. And so how can we take that even further? So not just for us, you know, it's not just about us, and it's pretty clear that it's not about all of us anymore. It's about the people that we're teaching, it's about the kids that are coming up in parkour, and it's about who can we reach out to that may not have the accessibility to it. You know, it's changed people's lives, and it's pretty apparent for everybody. So I think that's something that's super important that I would like to see as a community or as other communities to publicize that. So
what would you imagine coming out? Because all I can think of is pretty much public generation videos, big video,
yeah. I know.
And those are fairly.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be everything, like every event. But I mean, you know, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I haven't really thought of a collectively good idea that we could publicize it. But with a group of people like this, I mean, I'm sure we can come up with some kind of medium to where, you know, maybe you guys do an event that is outreaching to community. You guys have really good camera equipment and abilities to do that. And, I mean, I think everybody does, but I think that's just something that I kind of wanted to touch base on.
You talked about Chit-Jam earlier.
Yeah, and that as well. Yeah, they do a super good job with covering that, and, you know, interviews with that, and that's like, I don't know, I just think that's being kind of put on the back burner and overlooked And I know that, like,
How long has Take Gym been going on for?
5 years.
5 years. Yeah, I think it was only in like the last 2 years that I realized it was for breast cancer.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a bunch of immature parkour athletes.
And see, that's a super good thing to know, though, because it's like, how is it being publicized?
Yeah,
Exactly.
And so how can we, I don't know, how can we bring light to something like that? Like,
Is balls jam for?
It's
not.
Great question.
Not yet.
Not yet.
No, we like talked about it, but we only plan the jam like a month in advance.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of weird for that to like adapt that. Suddenly now,
It's like
now it's for balls.
We don't. Or I've never. As long as I'm doing parkour, I've never like hosted an event that was for a charity or anything. What does end up happening is we giving out tons of free memberships, stuff like that to kids that can't pay for it. It's actually really unfortunate and weird sometimes when I've been contacted by schools sometimes, and they'll say, I have a kid that wants to do a program, and we want to get him on this scholarship so that we can pay you with the scholarship money or the grant money. It's not scholarship, it's grant money for your program. Are you recognized by BC British Columbia Sport Federation? No, but bring the kid in, and they won't do it.
That's weird.
And it always really upsets me. It's only we'll have families come in, and then it's us. Like it'll be more of a personal thing. But when it's a school, there will usually be some counselor that contacts us, and they won't. I guess that it sounds too sketchy to them or something, but I'll never hear back from them after the fact. It's happened several times where they wanna apply for a grant so they can pay us the grant money, and I'm saying I'll do it for free. Just bring the kid in, and they won't do it, and it's so stupid.
They say we have a sponsorship program, make up an application.
Yeah, I more or less that's what I try to do. Or I've for the kids that have come in, I'll sometimes get them, to write so many words or something. So I'm not just saying, hey, you don't have money, okay?
Yeah, because that's what we do. Just having a piece of paper.
Yeah, there's some sort of.
It's really powerful for that.
Yeah, some sort of application process. And sometimes it doesn't work out. I've had actually this kid that I recently there's a kid that used to come to the gym, and he had a foster family, and they were paying, and now he's like 18 or 19, and someone that knows him came in and said, hey, can is there any way you can do that? I said, totally, yeah, but maybe one thing I wanted to do before is just make a resume, because that he's never made a resume before. Guess what? If he makes a resume to do something at the gym in exchange for just volunteer work, in exchange for classes, he'll be able to use that. Now he has resume making skills, and he keeps doing that. And again, sometimes nothing comes out of it. I'm asking them to make a little thing, here's an application, make a resume, and they can't do that. And so it's unfortunate, but yeah, anything I've done charitable has usually been just person to person. I've never done any big events or anything, but.
I think that's a good place to be too, because it's the same thing we do at the gym. I mean, we do the same kind of stuff, and I think that's important too. And I don't think it's necessarily oh, hey, we need to publicize how great we all are as doing all these cool things. But I think
getting it out kind of spreads it.
I think there's something to be said about the influence that we have as leaders in the community. Not even just parkour, but as the potential that you have as. But just as leaders in the community, and the capabilities that we have in our individual communities, let's
make a hashtag.
Hashtag?
Yeah.
That would actually, it's not a bad idea.
I remember we were talking about this back when Move to Inspire was starting. On the site, we're going to do a weekly highlight of a community outreach thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was the coolest idea in the world.
It's hard to upkeep.
Yeah.
For athletes, where you just point out an athlete. And like I said, it's not even, I think it can go so much further than just us as athletes. It's the people that don't think they can do anything anymore. The people that give up on themselves, because everybody else has given up on them. Those are the kind of people that I think we can be, as a collective, bringing up. Mm-hmm. That's important to me. I think it's super important to give someone an opportunity, because not everywhere is as privileged as certain areas. And I think that parkour is such a powerful tool to be able to do that. So I think as a collective, like, what can we do to make things better? And like, we're all taking steps in our own communities to do that. But I mean, is there the potential for all of us to actually work together to actually create something that is either like a tour where we go around to different places and teach workshops and offer it for schools, or is there like, you know, what are the type of things that we can do to make something like that happen? That's what I'm curious about. That's what I'm interested in.
For sure.
Yeah, so we've done a lot of different outreach style stuff as part of our organization. One of the things that is hard about it is that we found that the most effective, or at least the most beneficial thing for at-risk kids, or really any group that you do outreach for, is that they need something, they need regular focus.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So like doing a clinic generates good word of mouth about your business, and like, you know, it sounds good and stuff. But if you did a tour and you did one clinic everywhere, your impact would be pretty low. Right?
What if you?
So back in the day, I used to think all I had to do was spread the word of parkour to people, and it would turn on in their minds, and they would become like us. But in reality, we are a very rare percentage, the amount of people who just learn about this and then just go out and start training themselves in it. And it was great, it was beneficial for us, but other people need much more support to be able to gain the same benefits that we have gained from parkour. So all of our outreach has been turning into like pretty highly local focus, working for regular programs with schools, with other nonprofits, things of that nature. And a lot of it really is taking place as just a sliding price that we employ, right? The biggest thing that I think that we are not doing well yet, that I plan to do, and that I think will help inspire others and get this out there, is that typically nonprofits will have an annual report that they will give out each year that coincides with their annual fundraising that they typically do. We don't do all that much fundraising anymore. Suck at writing that stuff, so it hasn't been focused on mine. But the biggest thing is that you track this stuff. Right? You track what outreach programs that you ran, every school that you worked with, you track the number of students that are in there. We track the number of first group classes that we give away just to see what our reach is, right? We track volunteer hours. If you're running a program for a school or something, you have some of your coaches that are doing it and they're getting paid or whatever, it's like that's also hours. Even the money that you pay them is also outreach money towards that. When you actually track all that and you add it all up and you kind of put that on your website at the end of the year or something, that shows other communities that it's something that that you have done and that your group is great and that maybe they could do it too. But it also shows grant writing organizations and other nonprofits that have their shit more together, that deal with you in these fields and are probably better at it than tackling it with us, right? That could pull us on. Like they've had some really good programs in Australia in this arena, which is the nonprofit that we first organized ours to look like. But a lot of that is managed by other nonprofits. They bring them into like juvenile detention centers and stuff like that. It's not something that they can just like, this is what we want to have happen. It's like, no, it's like, we think this is a good thing for these kids to have, so we want to bring you guys in. And the way I think that more of those opportunities happen is by just at least tracking that this sort of stuff is happening. Because the videos are hard for all of that, and they're kind of temporary. But if we can put it out there, it's a much bigger thing. Like I know that we've given 7,500 first group classes away for people that are using the parkour. Right? It's not particularly outreachy. It's a marketing thing for our gym as well. But that's still a lot of people. So it's like that's something cool that people can see that's out there.
Like you were saying, this might like sound dumb after we talked about all the certification stuff, but like you were saying, doing like tours, going around and like introducing people to parkour, that kind of not having the staying power really. Like I'm sure it affects a few people, but not like the whole group. What if you not only introduced them to it, but did a certification to teach it? Not so much that, but like found, a leader in their community already who's already trying to help these people.
Giving those to the local community.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm just throwing ideas out.
I think you'd want to do it under the umbrella of a nonprofit that works in that. They're going to know what sort of works. We just have to convince them that Parkour is a good avenue for it. And I think that there's a very strong case for Parkour benefit to specifically youth who just don't have access to organized sports, don't have access to programs. Like this is something where they can turn the world around into their own gym. Really transforming. A lot of us have transformative experiences. So it's like the case is there, but there isn't that much work being done in it, or at least we haven't been able to show that there's that much work being done. And the reason that I mentioned like tracking like everything, like volunteer hours and all that sort of stuff, is because that's where the fun comes from. Right? So you might find yourself receiving a grant or something, and it's tied directly to the amount of volunteer, like the amount of volunteer hours, the amount of days that you manage, and that can actually be really and so it's you need that sort of numbers as well as it takes.
You might as well go to matching grants too. It's a big thing in parks as well. Just like the organizations that give out money want to see a partial, what they call a partial match of, that can be money, it can be like, oh, my gym is going to kick in 15 grand or something, or it can just be hours. So like, you all have an hourly rate. When you're teaching kids, that's money that your organization is giving. And so having that tracked means that when you go and apply for a grant that has a partial match, you actually have something to bring there. You don't have to make sense.
You don't have to be nonprofit communities as well. You can either get sponsored or they're also really
Yeah, that's what I was going to add.